Okay, so since we simulated disasters, didn't actually get us off track. So I guess we'll just move right in with Ange's talk. So Ange, among other things, is to manage stress engineers who burn up all these resources doing these things. So I guess she's going to tell us why these engineers should be continued to be employed.
Yes. I talk really loudly, so is that not too close? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, we're all right.
Okay.
User error.
Right, just
You fixed it just by standing up, Glenn. Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, which will be most of you, I'm Angela. So I confusingly have two job titles. I'm the CIO and the COO of Rianne's. So I pretty much run all the technical people. That's what I'm going to talk about. So for those of you that don't know who Rianne's are, which I think most of you do, is we run the Research and Education Advanced Network of New Zealand, hence our gigantic job title. So you can see here we're part of 117 other NRENs around the world. I actually think there's 118 now. And so we connect through. You can sort of see here where we're going. On the scale of things, we're tiny. My team is tiny and our budgets are tiny. And so trying to get anything done's a lot harder than most people. So part of what we do is we need to invest in infrastructure in New Zealand, and so we're a Crown-owned entity, which means that the government basically owns us as a company, and they give us a little bit of money, but not enough to do our job. So we also have to get money from the people that use our networks. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today, which I think is completely different from the technical view, which the rest of these 2 days is all about, is a CIO view of this sort of stuff. So we were joking at dinner last night about all this year's buzzwords. So last year was big data, this year it's IoT, AI, SDN, a couple of other things like that. And the problem with that is that when you, in the community that I operate in, you get a lot of people who read these things in a magazine on a plane and then want it, or they think they know what it is and they don't. And so trying to actually operate in that community, when I myself run a team of network engineers who do know what they're talking about, trying to manage that message is quite difficult. So one of the things about any new technologies, and we all live this every day, is that, and SDN is no different, is often the technical capacity is ahead of the understanding of what that is. And it's certainly the case with SDN. It's certainly the case with a lot of the people that I work with and operate with. So when I come to work and the guys are talking about things that they want to do on our own network, which sounds really good, I think we're in a unique position where we're allowed to do a lot of those things. They don't have to convince me that it's correct. The problem I have is I then have to go and convince my boss to give me money to let them do this stuff. And that's a lot harder conversation. So one of the things you'll see here as we talk about the funding and application of resource is absolutely an issue in New Zealand. I don't know if it is for the rest of you, but Rianne's itself has been instrumental in managing and running the Fawcett Code. So Chris, that Josh thanked before. And so over the last couple of years, the guys have largely done this by stealth. And they've just kind of snuck stuff in because it's far easier to seek forgiveness than it is to seek permission. So we sort of got to a natural point where we had to actually figure out what we were going to do with Fawcett, what was our actual intention going forward. Okay, so current maturity. Now, some of you may disagree with this, but I'm a CIO, and that's what I think. So you're just going to have to listen. So some of the things is, I think, you know, when I talk to people like me, and just to give you an idea, I've got a software development background and a network engineering background. I'm not the person you want to let loose on your network, but I think I'm all right at managing people that are. So it's not well understood. It sounds like a great idea. It's a bit like test automation when that first sort of became a thing, and you get a lot of people saying, oh, great, I can sack all my testers. And we all know that that's not actually the case, right? Building a good automation platform actually has a huge maintenance overhead, you know, and you've got to be automating stuff that's already relatively stable or it doesn't work. SDN can be dismissed as another buzzword. I'm going to lay claim to the term software enhanced networking, because that is how I explain it to other people. So at REANZ, we have an instance of Foresight. We run our internal network on it. But when I'm trying to explain software-defined networking, it defines a misleading word. And so enhance seems to be a really good way to explain to people that this is a way to enhance how we manage networks, not completely go Skynet on it. So we probably look at SDN infrastructure as a silver bullet. So like I was saying before, that people think that this is a way to save money, or save resource and therefore save money, and we can sack half the network engineers. We all know that that's not the case, and personally I think that I won't end up with less engineers, or what I'll do is I'll end up with engineers doing more important stuff. So the things that are really painful or manual at the moment will become easy, and we'll find a whole bunch of new painful and manual stuff that we'll be doing instead. The other thing, so lots of technical opinions. I think if I asked everyone in this room what SDN was, I'd probably get a different answer. And also it's hard to describe a movement. And I think SDN itself, like many other things, seems like a smart thing to do, and people are trying to get there, but it's actually really hard to articulate that out. Control plane benefits, obviously you guys know all of these, but it's very hard to actually articulate and realize that when you're trying to get money out of someone to let you do these things. So therefore you need tangible applications. I need to argue, what are you actually going to get by letting me spend money on this? And that's how, that's an argument that we need to have. Okay. So no one wants to go first. So I think Stephen made this comment earlier. Nobody wanted to be the one that went in and jumped in and did this in a production environment. And I think last year that was more so the case. This year, I think already we're seeing a lot of people are taking opportunities to move into this. There's spend required both in people and infrastructure. Like anything new, when you're moving, you've got to find it. So one of the things that we're doing is we run simultaneous things, or you can think about when there's a new infrastructure build, to take that as an opportunity to set it up from scratch. But these are the sorts of conversations that I'm having in the community that I operate in, and is how you can actually implement these things. You won't get money out of anybody if you haven't got a tangible use case. If you can't prove to somebody why this is better than how I currently do it, no one's going to give you money to get there. An exec need to understand the value of SDN. So when I say this, it's different for everybody. So I think every community or every customer, every business, the value of SDN is slightly different, and you need to be able to articulate what that value is to that particular person. So we have people asking us for this like it's something you can buy off a shelf, and we all know that it's not there. And of course, I think people don't know what they're asking for. Okay, barriers to adoption. Again, with any new technology, I think the biggest problem that you have is people adopting it, and then all of a sudden it's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It's out of your control. And so we're in a really nice place at the moment where we can sort of control the messages around what this is, and around what the proof of value is, particularly around what it is, but also what it isn't. So I've had several conversations with people around, this isn't a silver bullet. This isn't going to make the teams smarter or faster necessarily. The idea is to make your network smarter or faster or more resilient or less risky or easier to roll stuff out, or whatever the value is to you. But you've also got to be really clear about what the value isn't. And I don't think, and I've got a very, very strong consulting test background, and I spent many years having many conversations with people about automation. And this feels like there's going to be a flavour of that same sort of argument here. Again, you're not going to get funding for an unproven approach. Lack of leadership and support in right places. So I think forums like this are really important, and you've got a lot of technical smarts in this room, but actually we all have bosses, and those bosses have budgets, and we need to start actually getting the conversation in the right place. There's a low digital fluency, clearly not in this room, but certainly in a lot of the places that I hang out, you have people with flash-sounding titles that start with a C and end in an O, but don't actually understand what it is that they're talking about. I like to think I'm slightly on the scale of sort of no, probably enough to be dangerous, but it's just the truth. You know, it is the truth. Running a business is different to running a network. Securing funding from your ministry that's in charge of science and innovation is completely different from securing funding from me. So, you know, I think that we need to think about this at a broader level than just the technical implementation. One of the really key things, and I'll spend a moment on this, is the impact on current roles and other cultural factors. One of the things that Rianne's is doing, which I've yet to find someone else who's doing, so I'm not sure whether I'm doing this right or wrong, my systems people, my network people, and my software development people, and my engineers, anyone with any technical bent sits in my team. I think at ARNet, the network guys sit in a different team to the systems guys. And so I'm lucky in the fact that all my technical people all sit in the one team. We all talk to each other. We all use the same resources. And if one of the engineers wants to do something, they've got a software developer guy sitting right there to help them out. That does us a lot of favours. And I personally think that's where network engineering is going in the future. And again, a couple of other people earlier today have said that you need network engineers who understand software development, even just understanding the basics, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's where we're going. In our team in particular, we have very, very strong old school network engineers, and at the other end I've got very, very smart software developers, and those two guys work together every day to get things done. And I think already in my team I'm seeing the benefit of that relationship. And we spend a lot of time talking to other people about growing the skills you need within your team to run smart networks. And I think that's often an underlooked area, because a software developer by tradition is not a network engineer, and the two of them don't generally meet. But in our team they do, and they have to sit next to each other, and they have to talk to each other, and our network engineers write code and the software developers laugh. And that's okay, because I think then everybody's learning. Don't forget too that current process and infrastructure. So we have people asking us our opinion on SDN, or can you roll SDN out? Again, I don't think they know what the question is that they're asking, but one of the things you need to think about is these things take time to change. You can't rip a Band-Aid and slap in an SDN over something. It's not something you can buy off a shelf. So again, these are the sorts of conversations that I have, so you think your day jobs are fun. Okay, challenges to overcome in community support. Again, this is a really theme through my talk, but what's the SDN at a business level? So at the moment, it's a buzzword to a lot of chief executives. It's something that sounds like it's good, but they don't really understand what the impact is. So we need to start talking about improved quality and response times, and less about control plane and elastic networks, because those things sound like buzzwords, but low risk, better quality, faster time to deliver things, that's something tangible that you can touch. Again, you need to make the message consumable by everyone. So I'm not a network engineer, and I only laughed at a couple of jokes because most of them I don't get. And I'm perfectly happy saying that. I'm a bit scared that I'm getting more and more of the jokes as time goes by. But at the moment, you need to, when you're trying to articulate your message in another community or another environment, you have to talk to your audience. And I don't know if you guys have heard yourselves talk lately, but it's not an easily consumable message. Again, real world applications, you need to actually have use cases that mean something to the business that you operate in. If you can't actually talk about something tangible, it's just more noise. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the IT Crowd. I'm sure you all have. There's an episode there where one of Moss is talking to Jen, and he's explaining something to her, and she just goes, whoo. That's how a lot of people feel like when they're talking to you guys. Okay, operational efficiency and resiliency, I've talked about that. It's not always less people or even OPEX savings, but it's better service, better quality, and flexibility. And I think this is a message that I talk about a lot, and that's how I secured some funding recently to do this stuff. Okay, so what REANs are doing. So one of the things, and like I say, we've been participating in the wider SDN community for a long time, long before I got at Reans, and the guys have done a really good job. But one of the things that we've struggled with in the past year in particular is to get focus on what we're doing with SDN. And I think the problem there was nobody could actually describe what we were trying to do. It's fun to muck around. It's exciting to try new things, but what is Rean's position on SDN? What do you think of it? What's our budget for it? What are we trying to do? So one of the things that I've done over the last probably 6 months is try and get a view and get an understanding of for me too, I needed to understand what my guys were doing all day, because if I don't know what they're doing, it's very hard for me to see the value in it. So one of the things that we've started to do is we actually have a position now at our board. I've stated my position on SDN. I've stated what we want to do for the next 12 months. Things like speaking at these events and being supportive of things like the Fawcett Foundation, which you'll hear about a bit later, I think today. One of the biggest things probably that I managed to, we've managed to wangle is we've assigned a portion of our R&D budget just for SDN. So Chris Laurier, who's a PhD student that works for us, is now doing nothing but his PhD and working for Reans and Arnett as a co-funded project on SDN related stuff. That's cool. You know, that's all he does all day is SDN, lives and breathes SDN. I don't think that's a very common thing that you can say that that's your job. I made up some job title, I can't remember what it is. Do you remember? Yeah. It was some made-up, invented thing, so I could get budget to pay for them. But I think that's a really good thing, and it shows that one, we're committed to this community. Two, that we as a business are committed to leading edge activities, that we're actually trying to do something new and interesting and trying to create smarter, better networks. That's our job, so we should therefore be doing it. Active engagement with vendors, we're trying to get around and actually, one, get our message out there with people, but also just be visible, not only in this community, but in the community that we operate in, which is obviously with all the research institutes and the universities and things like that, because these people hear these words and they need to understand what those words are and where the value is to them. And without someone, I'd like to think of us as the translators that sit in between. Without someone translating what that value is to them, it's very hard for us to deliver it if they don't understand what it is that they want. I think that is it. Yeah. It was quick. Any questions? Don't ask me anything technical. Good. Oh, yeah.
One question. Kind of like a scenario question. So let's imagine you have one of your customers that comes to you and says, my budget is too small, I can't operate my network. I would like you to come and work for us and run up my network. Well, they probably won't tell you, I want you to work for us. They'll just say, I want you to run.
Yeah, cheaper. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And let's assume for the moment, and I hope this is the case, we all agree that this SDN stuff is good. So we should do it. Can you speak to your view of the gap between where we are now and where you would be comfortable to say we're going to not do the risk-averse thing and build a traditional network versus building an SDN-based network for a customer?
Yep. So funny you should use that as an example, because we do get asked stuff like that. And one of the things that we're going to focus on the next year, particularly with the engagement that we've got with Arnett and the co-funded thing, is actually look at that as an example of something that we can do. So we've got some internal little jobs we want to get done to sort our own backyard out first. And one of the things that we want to look at is how do we push ourselves out into our members' networks and take those things over. Because if we've got smarts that can save people money or increase the quality, let's be honest, of their network, not everybody's got a brand running the network for them, right? So if we can help in that way, we absolutely should. That's why we exist, is to encourage and support and help these people get along. So that's one of the things we want to prove this year. Yeah.
So Travis, sorry, since we're running ahead, time to talk about
Sure. Sure.
No pressure disaster.
Yeah.
You have customers today. I saw on the map that you have customers everywhere all around the world. What
No,
kind of-
no. So those are the dots for the other emigrants.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so our customers are internal. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So when, okay. So when you say that they are all part of the DNS, to the top of the DNS network, is that what you said?
Yeah, so our DNS network runs up and down the country,
Okay.
and we connect to the universities, the Crown Institutes, and big research, data intensive.
So when you connect to the different universities and that kind of stuff, do they want to use SDN, whatever the channels that you see in terms of talking to that?
So some of them already do,
Okay.
yeah, and some of them think they want to, but don't know what it means. So we actually have such a diverse customer base of our members, so you belong to brands, that the quality of our networks, once you get off brands into the campus network, is so huge that there's no easy answer to that question. So every instance would be different. Yeah. But that's something that we're trying to work on now, is that engagement between where we finish and they begin. Often that's where all the problems occur. It's not so much our ability to run our network or even the ability to run your internal network. It's the big fat possum that gets constricted when we get onto campus. Yeah.
I just hijacked the spot.